Before we get started, does anyone want to get out?
Welcome, Marvel fans, to episode 20 of Marvelcast, a Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast by fans for fans. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news regarding the MCU, followed by reviews and discussion of the latest released content in this ever-expanding multiverse. Our audience is a key component to our show, and we'll wrap up each week by answering your Marvel-related questions. I'm your host, JG. Joined with me today is my co-host, Steven. Steven, we're here. It's episode 20. It's the Marvelcasties. How are you doing?
I'm really good. I mean, I was just looking at the calendar. We're only about 6 weeks away from doing this for 6 months in a row, half a year. That's hard to believe. I mean, 20 is a big one. And just our whole topic today, we've been teasing it for a while. I'm super excited. I've been looking forward to this for quite a while.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was thinking about that, we've now been doing this for months and months, and that it's crazy. They say it takes like a couple weeks or however long it is to create a habit. Well, this habit's definitely been formed, and thank you guys for also listening to us and creating that habit. It's been quite a journey, and today is definitely a great day to celebrate the year of 2021 and also look forward a little bit to next year. We weren't planning on talking about any news at all, but there was something significant that did happen that I felt like we needed to at least mention, maybe say a quick sentence about. But Morbius, the film that apparently is just destined. It's a very similar fate to Black Widow. Apparently, we're not meant to see it because this film has been delayed to April 1st, and no, it's not a Fool's Day, due to everything that's happening around the world with Omicron and just a lot of surges right now. They decided to delay this film. Also, there's been some reports like possibly with how along with that, with the success of Spider-Man, they don't want to hinder that as well. So there's a lot of things going into this. Steven, what are just your quick, brief thoughts about Morbius once again getting delayed till April?
Yeah, I saw two interesting news stories regarding this. The first one was that Morbius has been delayed more times than New Mutants was. And that was like the big previous, like, was it ever going to come out? And the other one was that the first trailer for Morbius came out before No Way Home even started filming. I want you to think about that for a second. It's been that long that this has been teased and getting ready for. So, I mean, it's 2 or 3 more months. It's disappointing. I had plans to see it with my buddy who I haven't seen in a while since the pandemic, really. And so I'm hoping that we can get together and see it hopefully in April as well. But hopefully it doesn't get pushed back again. And hopefully it continues to build up this Spider-Verse. I'm waiting for it. I'm optimistic. I want to see more crossover, more potential, maybe even another appearance of another Spider-Man. Who knows? It'll be exciting. I can't wait.
Yeah, I think it really just shows that they have a lot of faith in this movie, and so they're willing to take that time to wait and allow it for it to be the proper time for everyone to see that film. And so we are excited to see it. Obviously, it changes our plans, so we'll have some different coverage this month. Not really much of the Morbius side of things, but we will be very excited to hop in that at the end of March into early April. But the main show, the reason that we are celebrating 20 episodes, the year 2021, it is our Marvelcasties. It's the Oscars, it's the Emmys, it's all that good jazz. We really wanted to celebrate because it's been a hard year, but man, Marvel has delivered almost more than any other franchise out there. They introduced the Disney Plus series. They brought in several great films for past heroes, new heroes. Man, there's been a lot. Steven, just in general, like, what just an overall thoughts about 2021 for Marvel? I mean, we also started talking about it together, which has really been an awesome thing as well.
Yeah, I think last year was the perfect time to start this podcast. I mean, if we would have kind of foreseen just the amount of content, I wish we would have even started earlier, like around WandaVision at the beginning of the year. But I still think, we got our routine of, the weekly Wednesday, especially when Loki kind of switched it from Friday to Wednesday. I think we got the routine going that by the time What If started is really when we picked up around episode 3 of What If. And, we've just had so much content to talk about. I think Marvel continues to hit it out of the park every single time. I hope Star Wars falls into that routine, hopefully this year or next year. I want everyone to succeed. I love both franchises, but man, Marvel is really the cookie cutter of what you should be following right now. So man, it was a great year and we've got so many good awards to give out tonight.
Yes. And so this episode is going to be pretty simple, straightforward. We're going to discuss and talk about the results. We are going to go down by each category, and we are going to announce first what the community choice was. We had quite a few of you all who reacted to this and answered, and we thank you guys all so much. It really, really meant a lot to us. Like, as we were seeing the votes flying in and the results constantly shifting and changing, it was so exciting to watch. And so we'll take turns announcing each of the different categories, going back and forth. Then we'll give our choices for the awards and have a short discussion about it, and just, again, celebrate the great content that we've gotten. So, Steven, kick us off.
Yes, our first category that we're going to go over tonight is the best mid or post-credit scene in a Marvel Studios production. There were actually 17 different scenes that we included on the ballot. And after tallying up all the votes, our winner with 18.8% is at the end of Loki episode 4, the Nexus event, when Loki wakes up to find 4 variants of himself looking back at him. JG, this was a great scene in my opinion, and I'm going to spoil it right now. This was the one that I picked. I don't know about you. This was my favorite because whenever I saw this, and obviously the audience feels the same way, you know, it wasn't at the end of the season. It was right in the middle, really, of the show. So it really kind of set the tone for the rest of it. It kind of was a big jumping off point because, you know, where it left during the actual episode, it looked like Loki was zapped or, you know, he was gone. We don't know what happens to you. So we pick up in this afterlife, whatever it is, and boom, he's looking at Crocodile Loki, Kid Loki, Old Man Loki. And he's just seeing multiple versions of himself. Before we go on, I want to also acknowledge it was a tie for second place between Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness teaser and also Eddie and Venom arrive in the MCU at the end of Venom Let There Be Carnage, excuse me. So JG, can you share also which scene did you pick?
Yeah, so I will say that mine does not match with the top 3 from the community choice and does not match yours. I went with the Eternals post-credit scene with Dane Whitman and the Blade. If you know me personally, you know that I am huge into fantasy and that type of content, and I just getting that side of the story. You know, if we're gonna get to maybe introduce maybe some of the, go back and see some of the stories like they did in comic with Merlin and Arthur, and get some of more of this just fun medieval fantasy stuff mixed in with Marvel and superheroes. And then of course we have that tease when when I was in the theater, I thought it was the Watcher, but then we find out that it's the introduction of Blade. Like, oh my goodness, like that scene was just crazy. And like I want to pick so badly the Eddie and Venom scene, but I just do think that with the post-credit scene in Spider-Man No Way Home, I think it does take away from it a little bit. But I will say that that moment was crazy in the theater, but it has to be the Eternals with Dane.
Yeah, that sets up so much, and I was so hoping that they would announce pretty soon after, you know, Black Knight show or something along those lines. And who knows, I'm hoping we get more of him sooner rather than later. But yeah, that was a great scene. And I remember, and I think we talked about it maybe even on the episode earlier this year, how you and I were both trying to figure out whose voice that was. You thought it was the Watchers, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yeah.
And I did not know. And then I think they announced it that weekend, maybe around Saturday or Sunday, that it was Blade, Mahershala Ali. Oh, so many great post-credit scenes, and I cannot wait to see what this year has in store because, you know, they always set up some great things. And I am curious, while I have it pulled up, did we include Hawkeye? Yeah, what did Hawkeye get on this one?
We did include Hawkeye.
It got 1. It got 10.4%. It got 5 votes. It looks
5 votes. Wow.
Yeah, so it did better than I thought. So that's a good. All right. Do you want to head on to the next category?
Yes, and so now we'll be announcing the best score, which is the best music, best soundtrack, all that fun stuff. And the winner with 43.8% of the vote is Spider-Man No Way Home. Steven, what are your thoughts on the most recent film that we got taking the music?
Yeah, I think it makes sense because this was Michael Giacchino, who did the last 2 films, and he's done Lost. He's done so many other, you know, Mission Impossible, Star Trek. He's a really great composer. And the fact that they were able to intertwine some of the themes from the Tobey Maguire trilogy and the Andrew Garfield duology, perfect. I mean, you needed to do that because the music is just as much an important part of the story as anything else. So this makes sense, and I'm glad to see it's fresh in everyone's head. It's a music they just heard. Makes sense that it's so high up.
What about for you? What was your response for that?
Mine is kind of surprising, but it's, you know, when I think back to this year and the music, The one song and theme that kind of stuck with me, and I still listen to it on occasion, is actually the Falcon and Winter Soldier. It got that drum beat, and I don't know, it just kind of was. It's actually, I was looking it up. It's called the Louisiana Hero. Is actually the name of the theme because it's really focused on Sam. And I don't know. I think I can't imagine. I actually am excited for the chance to hear it on a big screen whenever we get that Captain America 4 film with Sam Wilson. So I don't know. I was kind of surprised looking back on it, but I wrote these down a couple weeks ago and I still hold to it. That song, just with the beat, I don't know. It's one that has stuck with me all year for some reason. What about you?
So for me, and it's not even a question, it's the one that I've listened to the most. I think it literally made my top 10, or it was really high up on my Spotify Wrapped list this year. And it's Loki. The music from Loki, that specific theme, when they're on the planet and they're holding the hands, the violins and the strings come in. Oh my gosh, I get chills. I love that music so much. There is so much emotion that is driven through that, and it's just and it gives me so much like Doctor Who vibes too. I have said that so much time that Loki was just a season of Doctor Who, and the music really reminds me a lot of it as well. And just really, and that was the audience's runner up too. There was a point where Loki actually had the lead for the best score, and then Spider-Man came in and started to tilt the scale a little bit. But honestly, though, a lot of the music has been really good this year for Marvel, to the point where I actually made a playlist on Spotify for the Marvel music. It's how good it's been.
Yeah, and that's one thing I'm glad that Marvel is getting better at, because if we go back to the earlier films, most of the scores besides the Avengers were not as memorable. But I think they're getting more memorable, in my opinion. So I'm looking forward to hearing more music next year as well.
Definitely. Steven, next category?
Yeah. Our next one is our best ship or duo. And so after calculating the results, I don't think there's a huge surprise, especially for it being so close in memory. With 22.9% of the votes, the winner for best ship or duo is Kate Bishop and Yelena Belova in Hawkeye. JG, does this make sense? Did you love their scenes together?
I freaking love their scenes. So much the fact that, like, who knows, there might be some upcoming stories with them. That's been going around the internet this week. And so, oh my gosh, yes, like macaroni and cheese, girls' night, let's go, part 2.
Yeah, you're referencing the rumor that Kate Bishop might pop into if there's a Black Widow 2 with Yelena. And I know you and you're one of the only people that does comment on my stuff, so I appreciate that. But I made sure to put the GIF of Yelena with her.
Yes.
What's up, New York? So that was awesome. Was this your winner, or did you have someone else?
No, so I was actually torn. I was torn between the runner-up, which was Eddie and Venom, and my choice. And I thought about the whole film that this duo was in, and what they meant and what they represented, because we don't get to see this a lot of times in films in general, not even just Marvel. And I went with Sean and Katie in Shang-Chi. There is just something about that relationship in that dynamic duo that very rarely do we get to see. And I know the family was joking about romance, but from what we've seen in this film, and strictly in this film, they are a platonic friendship. And just seeing that represented on the screen is just something that's so beautiful and rare. A lot of times, we see friendships turn into romance, or friendship turned into enemies. And so to see them just laughing, having a good time, the karaoke scenes, and she's not sidelined. Like, she is there at the end. She's in the post-credit scene. She's going on this journey as much. And so, while it's so easy for me to pick my favorite romantic couple, Eddie and Venom, I had to go with Sean and Katie.
Yeah, I do like their relationship and their friendship, and I'm excited to explore it more wherever they pop up again. Like, watching it reminded me of one of my best friends from high school, and just like the relationship we had. And so, like, it was nice to kind of reflect back on that after seeing the two of them together. I have to give my vote, however, to actually Loki and Sylvie.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. Throughout that season, and I still think back to their relationship. I loved watching them on screen together. I was rooting for them, just, to be successful, and just the whole idea that, she's a variant of him. They're both Lokis, and the romance and the bond and the connection you felt between them. I mean, it almost reminded me back to, I hate to say it, like Jaime and Cersei a little bit from the Game of Thrones, but also, I don't know, there's something just beautiful about it. And like how, even at the very end, how she's willing to sacrifice him to meet her goals. Like, I do want to see them together again. And I don't know. I just something about their relationship just stuck with me because I think they're, variants. They're the same person, and how much Loki loves himself in that way. I don't know. But yeah,
That
what do we
that
have?
was that was
Oh,
that was
sorry.
really good.
It was good. So I'm hoping we'll see more of, Katie and Shang and Loki and Sylvie and Kate and Yelena. I want all three of these. I don't know. And
Yes.
Venom and Eddie. Come on, all of them. What's our next category, JG?
Yes, our next one is best non-powered character. Basically, it's like they're not the hero, they're not the villain, they're like that side character that we love so much. There were so many to the point that we actually had a tie with 20.8%. And that's what the audience shows. That's what we get. We got two winners, two non-powered characters, and I think it's quite appropriate. We have with 28.8% Mobius and Loki and Aunt May Parker in Spider-Man No Way Home. Steven, wow. First of all, we got a tie. And then second of all, what are your thoughts about just these two, maybe individually, but maybe also what they might mean? Like they might have some patterns here for maybe why they were chosen.
Yeah, these were the two actually on my list. So I was happy to see that they were also, I didn't expect them to be tied like this. And I think I actually crossed off Aunt May if I had to narrow it down to one. I really liked, what I think about Mobius especially was that Owen Wilson, I think we talked about it, or maybe it was before we were recording. He was not a fan of Marvel. Like, I don't think he's not a, super fan or whatever. So like when Marvel called him, he didn't understand the concept of what he was signing up for. But whenever they get, pitched him the premise and what his character would be, he signed on. And I'm so glad he did because he brought humor and heart to that character. And like his relationship again with Loki, from chasing him down to, going on this relationship with him and this friendship with him. I really like it and I want to see more of it. And from where we left off, it doesn't seem like Mobius even knows Loki anymore, or something's happened there for sure. In regards to Aunt May, absolutely no surprise here. She is kind of the heart and soul. She's the glue that holds the Spider-Man movies together in a way. And she got to deliver one of the most powerful lines that we've heard in years, and we've heard it a few times. So yeah, of course. And I don't know. I don't think she would be so high up had she not have, spoiler alert, died in No Way Home. I don't think, because in the three films, she hasn't had a ton of scenes. She had, I think, more probably in No Way Home than she did in the first two, almost combined. But yeah, what do you think about this? And then I want to hear your top person as well.
Yeah, so I think it's really interesting that it's these two because they're so similar yet so different. And so I think Mobius really just it gave us that he was that character that we could really like focus in on and kind of relate with a little bit as he's like, I'm just trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to be the good guy. He is working for a quote unquote evil organization. He's working for the evil villain. But at the core, Mobius is a hero and he wants to do the right thing and he's just following what he's being told. And then you see on the flip side Aunt May where she's delivering that basically the catalyst for the final part of the film and how she and her death and everything that happens is what really molds Peter into who he eventually becomes by the end of this film, where he's not, he is sacrificing his friendship by not telling them. And so I'm not surprised. I'm surprised that it tied, but I definitely thought Aunt May would have, because it just a little bit of recency bias because it's just so fresh in everyone's mind. But just seeing the love and respect for Mobius and the fact we are going to see him more, obviously, in season 2 and who knows where else. Maybe Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. It's great that, that we get to see, as we've seen today so far, like all of our picks have been pretty different. So for me, once again, I'm going to continue the trend and pick something different. I don't even think this person got many votes at all. I could be wrong. I picked Sharon Carter, and that might have come out of left field, but I will explain. Sharon Carter is a character that we thought we knew so much about, and we're like, oh, we know Sharon. We know Sharon. And Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes out of nowhere and just completely throws all of our expectations out the window. And we're like, oh, you're some super villain. You are evil to the point where like lying in court, which, one of the top evil things, like, and like, we don't know where she's going to go. Like there's so much more future for this character, and where we thought that she was a super altruistic woman and she is not. And I out of all of these characters, am the most fascinated and the most intrigued with where her story could go, just because of that turn, because it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, she's a character who I want to see more of because we don't typically see that drastic character change from our characters, especially from our heroes. And last time we saw her, or the previous times we've seen her, she's been on the side of good, on the side of justice. And now she's taken a very dark turn after the blip and after the snap and everything. I want to see more of her. I want to see where she ends up next. I really am excited, and just imagine what her great aunt would say if she saw Sharon this way too, or if Steve saw her this way, or imagine what Sam's going to feel when he finds out. I mean, I don't think Sam and her had the biggest connection compared to Steve and her, but yeah, I mean, I'm excited, and hopefully we'll see her again soon. All right, our next big reveal, which shouldn't come as, again, not much of a big shock, but is our best moment. And I got to say, this was the only category where you guys that voted in, again, all 48 of you, wrote a response to instead of just clicking a multiple choice option. And JG and I enjoyed reading through all of them. They were a lot of good moments. And again, some very out there moments, but that was awesome because it reminded me, oh yeah, that was this year. That was a great scene. I think one of the runner-ups was Andrew catching MJ. That was a commonly mentioned one. But the answer that most people did select was Spider-Man No Way Home, specifically the 3 Spider-Man. And again, this was mentioned a variety of ways, whether it was them coming out of the portals, whether it was them swinging together at the end of the film during the final battle. Seeing the 3 Spider-Man on screen together was a common answer amongst your responses. Wow. I mean, that was 20 years in the making. JG, wasn't that an incredible scene? And don't you agree with a lot of our audience here?
Yeah, and actually, I do agree. This is the one where I do agree, and it's specifically for me. It's whenever they're on the Statue of Liberty and they swing and they do each of their own poses. It's hard because there's so many different moments that I thought about, but when you put in the weight of how long it's been making, the fact that they got these people to come into this film, and then that moment in the theater, the roaring applause, the cheering, the screaming, runner up for me is that my favorite episode in Marvel right now still is the penultimate episode in Loki. When they're doing that final battle at the end. Like, I love that final battle scene so much. I will put it on very regularly just to watch that scene. But this Spider-Man, seeing all 3 together is special.
Yeah, I agree. And I said it before and I'll say it again. That was the best theater experience. The cheering, the applause at seeing those 3 men, Spider-Man, swing together, land together, fight 5 villains together was incredible. My runner-up would also come from Loki, but it would come from really the very last scene where we start to see the multiverse just expand, because it was one of those, oh my God, moments where what's happening and this is going to impact everything going forward. And it was such a game changer to really kick off Phase 4, even before or maybe right after Black Widow, so one of the first movies of Phase 4. So it was just, that was my backup. But yeah, seeing 3 Spider-Man together, in my opinion, that was my favorite scene of the year as well.
Can't beat it. Well, we're going to move a little bit now, looking to the future a little bit. We're going to probably next week talk about do like more of a deep dive, talking about the future, the shows and movies. But we did ask you, what was your most anticipated TV series or special? Because we have some of these kind of like one episode, kind of like short movies where they're coming on Disney Plus, but they're not necessarily on the big screen. So the most anticipated TV series or special of 2022, and this was the most fluctuating. This went back and forth. So many different lead changes, but at the end with 31.3%, it is Moon Knight, which might be our next upcoming one. We shall see how that unfolds. Hopefully Marvel give us a schedule. But Steven, Moon Knight, I could see this being what fans are most looking forward to. What are your thoughts on that, and do you agree?
I definitely think it's going to be a great show. I think seeing something different and unique and original, because when we think about the shows that we got this year, all of the shows were based on IP that we were already familiar with. So Moon Knight's really going to be a test because, I don't want to say it's easy, but if you're advertising a show with actors that have already been in one of the biggest film of all time, Avengers Endgame, that's a little bit easier to sell when you're marketing it. versus, I mean, yes, they have Oscar Isaac, who's also from many other blockbuster films. I think they will do a good job advertising. It's going to be a matter of will people sign up and join and watch it? Because I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful because just like people would go out to a Marvel film and pay, $7, $8, $9 to see the film, I'm hoping that they will sign up and watch it, especially if they already have Disney Plus. What's stopping you? So I'm excited for that. I wrote down for my most anticipated was actually Secret Invasion, but I am not 100% sure that will actually come out this year or if they'll save it for next year. If it comes out, that's my most anticipated. And if not, my runner-up would be She-Hulk, because I've started to hear some cool rumors circulating about She-Hulk. And I cannot wait to see that version of this. Again, new IP. We're getting a lot of new IP this year, which we should be proud. We should be excited for. What are your thoughts on Moon Knight, and what was your top answer?
Yeah, I think Moon Knight is just it's up there because I think it is different. It's not something we know. It's gonna have this darker, edgier tone. And I think people, we like that change. Like as much as we do love the familiarity and we get comfort from that, there is something exciting about the unknown. And so I think that is why we see Moon Knight just ever so slightly coming out there. I do think Secret Invasion is coming out, but I think it's going to do the same thing as Book of Boba, come out like that first episode will be the end of the year and then go into the majority of January. I think they're going to do something because it's still on Marvel and online. It's still saying a 2022 to release. Obviously, things could have changed with everything with COVID, but I have a feeling they might be pulling a Book of Boba. For me, it has to be She-Hulk. I think that She-Hulk has the most potential to be the most unique in the sense that we are getting a crime, like Law and Order Marvel show. Like, I don't think we're gonna get like the day-to-day court life and all that, but we're gonna have the courtroom scenes. It's gonna be unique. It's gonna be fun, and like the way that they made the logo, and everybody saw that during the Disney Plus day. It's 100% giving that Law and Order vibes, and I'm just so excited. And with her being a lawyer for like superheroes and people with powers, that just opens the door for anyone and everyone to come through. X-Men, mutants, all these other heroes that we just haven't seen or heard. Deadpool, like there is so many possibilities. It's going to be really hard for us fans that once we start to get closer to this, it's going to be really hard for us not to get overhyped and over speculated, just because I do think there's going to be quite a few surprises in this show. We know who the other lawyer is going to be. We're all excited for that. What about those people that they're representing that we don't know about?
Yeah, I think you're going to introduce so many other, again, maybe B-list or C-list or D-list Marvel characters that people never would have thought would have ever been seen in live action. And it's going to, again, when we think about the next time we get a big team up movie, think about it. You bring in She-Hulk, you bring in Moon Knight, you bring in Ironheart, you bring in all these new characters, and look at like the potential now to see, like, you're going to a movie to see characters that you've now watched for 6, 7, 8 episodes on TV. And now they're on the big screen, and now they're with other heroes that you've followed for years, plus all these other new film heroes. Like, it's going to be such a payoff for those that have invested the time, and it's making the universe more lived in and more real. So definitely bring it on. All right. Speaking of most anticipated for this upcoming year, let's talk about the most anticipated movie of the year. And with a really high 66.7%, we have Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. JG, is this your top film? And if so, why?
Yeah, I've said this many, many, many times. I'm just excited. I'm a horror junkie. Give me all the spooky ooky vibes. Yeah, and especially because, like I said, this is going to be an opportunity for people who don't normally go out to watch a horror movie to see horror, and to see horror maybe in a franchise that they love. And I don't think we're going to get to the extreme where we're seeing a slasher movie or we're seeing some crazy like thriller horror. I do think we're going to get the darkest scenes in the Marvel cinematic universe in this movie. We're going to get the scariest scenes. We're going to get some of the heaviest music. Like, it is going to freak people out. People who don't know what they're going into and they're thinking they're watching the next Marvel movie are going to walk on and be like, what the heck did I just watch? Not to mention the fact that the multiverse madness is happening. But yeah, it's I'm so excited.
Yeah, I think I'm most excited. I am agree with you. I'm most excited for Doctor Strange, but while I do like horror as well, I think I'm more excited on the element of seeing how many cameos and characters, and that again, just to explore and build this world to continue to blow it wide open. I think WandaVision, Loki, Spider-Man, No Way Home have all started it, but this movie is going to be bonkers off the walls from start to finish. It's going to be a mind trip. It's going to really just explode the whole MCU into this this is really the movie with the multiverse in the title. Make it happen. The runners up, the first runner up is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse Part 1 with 8 votes, and Thor: Love and Thunder got 7, with Morbius receiving 1. And surprisingly, we did not have any votes, it doesn't look like, for Black Panther, even though Fandango put that as their most anticipated film of all films this year. Are you surprised Black Panther did not get a single vote from our audience?
I'm not surprised. I think you have like your two big films, which are basically the one with the most hype right now, which is Doctor Strange, and then obviously Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. And then you're gonna get like a couple trickle here and there. I think the fans who might be listening, and just the fans who are as invested as we are, who are reading the reports and they're reading the news and they're seeing what's going on internet. There is definitely a lot of uncertainty and doubt with this Black Panther sequel, and we want the best for this film, and we want this film to represent and honor the legacy. But man, they have had quite a tumultuous 3 months of just rumors and speculations and just bad press. And so it's hard to get excited for a film like this when you're kind of like, is this going to happen? Is this even going to happen good? And so I think it's easy to pick these other films that there is already so much hype and so much energy towards.
Yeah, and especially because we haven't seen anything from Black Panther yet. Like, at least with everything else we've seen, maybe a teaser poster or some, pictures on the set. We haven't really seen much at all from Black Panther. I think there's a lot of questions. And hopefully by the time that teaser trailer comes out, we start to get some answers of where they're going with the story as well. All right, what do we have next?
Yes, and so now we're getting to like the big final 5 awards here. These are the awards that like everyone stays up super late to see. And so to start kicking it off, we have the best new hero. Because this is basically they're kicking off a new phase and just, the end of a saga. We have so many new characters, but while we did have new heroes, we also had old ones. So we decided to split it up, give it some fair competition and love. And so for best new hero, overwhelming 50% of the vote. I don't think this is a surprise. It's our mac and cheese girl. It's Yelena Belova in Black Widow and Hawkeye, which I think is really important because Steven, do you think her 2 appearances really helped her get that 50% of the vote? Or what are your thoughts? Like, I know we've talked so much about Yelena, but let's keep talking.
I love Florence Pugh. I love Yelena. I really feel like, I think the 2 appearances definitely helped her out because I'll be honest, she's my winner of this award, but her appearance in Hawkeye bumped her up to the top. And I think because, like, even though she has such a central part in Black Widow, the movie, I mean, we were teased that she was going to be in Hawkeye, but the thought that you're going to get this actress who's very talented to do 2 Marvel properties in 1 year was just awesome and mind-blowing. Like, we only had to wait a couple months to see that payoff. And usually those kind of post-credit scenes take 2 or 3 years till we get payoff. So it was so rewarding. Her chemistry in Black Widow with her cast and in Hawkeye with its cast was perfect. That's why she gets the number 1 spot for me, and probably for our audience as well. You love her. Is she your number 1, or did you pick someone else?
For the first time tonight, we actually, well, I guess besides Best Moment, we agree here. Yelena, she is so special, and just the energy. Heck, even Florence Pugh's Instagrams are the most hilarious things. Subscribe, seriously, guys. You are missing out on great content.
Didn't she get banned, or something got deleted because she was promoting herself in Hawkeye, and they took it down, right?
Yeah, so she actually got her Instagram account got suspended because she put a scene from Hawkeye, her scene, mind you, on Hawkeye on her Instagram story. Wild.
Wow.
I love her. There's just so much great energy. She's fun, but she is super like BA. She's kicks butt. She's just there's all around. There's so much there. I will admit though, I think she has an edge, and this is not against her. Like this is just what Marvel gave us this year. Her having Hawkeye elevated her. If it wasn't for that, for me, mine, which is definitely not would it be most people's, would have been actually Monica Rambeau. I think seeing that whole journey, what happens in WandaVision, is so incredible, and that we have so much future with that character. I love like that was like one of my crazy things. Whatever, however, what name they go with, whether it be Photon or Phasma, I'm super excited for her future. But yeah, Lelena, she kicked it this year.
Well, that's the best thing, about these Disney Plus shows, in my opinion. The story's great, the acting's great, but the fact that we're getting these origin stories, whether it be Sam Wilson as Captain America, whether it be Monica Rambeau, whether it be Kate Bishop, that way we are like a lot of these, big heroes, Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, we got their origin story in the first act of each of their movies, in the first half hour, 45 minutes. The fact that they let these characters breathe and give them multiple episode story arcs to develop from and change and grow. So that way, when we see them more fleshed out in a movie, we don't even need to waste any time. Like, here's the thing. The next time I see Kate Bishop in a film, I want her to already be swinging right into action. I mean, I'm sorry. If you didn't watch Hawkeye, you don't know who she is. That's your fault at this point. I'm sorry to say it, but you need to just jump right in now because we've invested the time. Now we get the payoff now that it has happened.
Yeah, I cannot agree more with you.
All right. So moving from best new hero, our next category is best villain. And again, just like Yelena had 50% of the votes, the winner of this category also had 50% of the vote. It's our most recent villain, not counting Kingpin. This would be Norman Osborn as the Green Goblin. He's reprising his role 19 years later after the original Spider-Man and now in Spider-Man No Way Home. JG, obviously, he killed Aunt May. He did a lot of destruction. He was the reason that we had our whole third act, pretty much. Is Norman Osborn deserving of the title of the best villain of 2021?
He's definitely deserving, and I could see very clearly why the audience went with that decision. He's just, it's that whole, the legacy, bringing an actor back 19 years later, and just what happened in that film and how he was able to portray it and bring new life to this character and was able to really take it to new levels that we hadn't even seen yet. It made it almost more frightening and more, it was a lot more grounded, and it felt like, oh gosh, this could actually like legitimately be like my neighbor next door. And it was so well done. And that last scene on the shield, I definitely see why. Now, without revealing mine yet, Steven, what is he yours?
I'm gonna echo what you said first and say I can see why everyone thought this. The whole scene where Tom Holland's Peter Parker was punching him, and just he had that smile on his face that was cringy, and it was made me uncomfortable because he's like the Joker of the MCU there. No, he was not my top one. And I wonder if the reason was there were other villains in that movie, whereas other properties only had maybe one major villain. So I loved him as a villain. I'm glad to see him again, but he was not my favorite villain. Do you want to share yours first?
Sure, I'll share mine. I wonder if maybe we actually have the same one. I have a feeling we might. Yeah, it is our favorite witch who has her own song nominated for a
It was
Grammy.
Agatha all along. The
Yeah.
both of us.
It's yeah, you can't like when we got her in the beginning of the year, it just left such an impact for all the other villains. And we've had great villains. Like I don't think this year was a villain problem at all. I think this year was the year of villains, to be honest, along with new heroes. It was truly incredible how she was able to, on a flip, just be that neighbor, that's willing to help and get the big goods and everything. But then she was this cunning, evil witch. And I cannot wait for House of Harkness. That is my most anticipated show out of anything that is out there. I love that. I love that stuff that goes with the horror. It's going to be funny. It's going to have music. I'm rambling, Steven.
Well, yep, you said everything I was going to say because she was also my winner. She is, you start off the year and you start off phase 4. You need to hit the ground running, and they did. I mean, the whole season they're building up this mystery about the hex, and we're led to believe it's Wanda that did the hex and the whole spell. And in the penultimate episode, in the last, like, the tone of the episode switches. We're no longer in a sitcom. We are in a very dark and scary basement with a witch who's holding our hero captive. And you get the whole reveal on the amazing song, and you get all the scenes of how she was pulling the strings all along. And it makes you want to go back and rewatch, because she was the one, even though she pops up, howdy neighbor, all happy, all go lucky. Nope, she was the witch. And when she's holding the two boys hostage, like, I mean, she just is intense and creepy, and their fight sequence flying through the air was, again, when I first saw that as really the first MCU television show, Marvel Studios show, I'm thinking to myself, this is film quality level of effects and acting and performances. Like, it looked like you were at the movie theater watching this fight at the end there, especially. And so, yep, she takes the lead for me, and I cannot wait to see her again. I'm hoping that show comes out 2023 early, because I need to see it.
Yeah, it just was so refreshing. Hearing, especially because I've seen a little bit of what she's acted before, not much, but hearing how people are saying it was so refreshing to finally see her star and to be the one to steal the show instead of the show being stolen from her. And so, what a performance! Like, it's so memorable. I still listen to that song probably at least once a week, to be honest. They really found something special, and I think that's why, like, we had talked about this whenever we did find out, like, there was the rumors before it got officially announced. We were talking about how this was probably the first time that Marvel was really reactionary, but reactionary in a good way. They saw that, hey, there's this character and this very talented actress who fans received extremely well, like extremely well. Song is nominated for awards, heck, even. And let's create a story. Let's keep moving this forward. Instead of maybe putting her as another side character or another side villain, she deserves her own property. And I'm so thankful that Marvel did that, because with a studio that we know is so tight on a schedule and so tight with their plans, that you cannot tell me that this was planned. It was not. And so to see them do this, I'm excited, like you are. All right, we got the best hero. So this is a hero that has been introduced before this year. This one was pretty close. This one was going back and forth for a few, specifically two at the end. With 35.4%, it is Peter Parker, Spider-Man, Tom Holland, taking the crown of best hero. Steven, there was 3 Spider-Men, but he's the one who came out on top. There's many other heroes we got this year that we were very familiar with. I don't think that this is a surprise in the slightest. What are your thoughts?
No, even though we had 2 other Spider-Man, and again, I heard a lot of people really giving Andrew Garfield praise, especially. Peter Parker, this is his movie. Like, the other 2 don't show up till the 3rd act. This is showing Tom Holland's acting chops. This is showing, like, his reaction to his aunt's death, his reaction to finding out there are other Spider-Man and what they've gone through. Like, he is the one that, even when there's 2 other Spider-Man on the screen, your eyes are drawn to Tom Holland, because again, he is the most recent. He's the one. And I can't even imagine, I'm sure at some point down the line, 10 years from now, we'll get another Peter Parker. But it's going to be hard to even imagine anyone else filling his shoes right now, because he's just so well beloved. He took my top spot as well. He's someone that, again, I've really just, between his appearances in Civil War and in his trilogy and in the Avengers movies, he's someone that I really do hope continues to play this role for years to come. He's so young, and I think he has so much more to give to this role. And I want to eventually see him pass on the role to, like, a Miles Morales type character. But let that be a couple years down the road, because I want to really give Tom Holland at least one more trilogy.
So, once again, I disagree with you in the audience, which is, a fun trend. This is what we love about this, is there's characters, heroes, stories, and themes for different people. I did pick up Spider-Man, though. I went with Andrew Garfield. I think Andrew Garfield, obviously, this film is all 100%, Tom Holland's film. And this is Tom Holland's Spider-Man. However, I left that theater really not even, because before I was very distinctly, like, we had a whole month of Spider-Man. I was very distinctly, Tom Holland is my favorite. Tom Holland is the best. Well, I thought that Andrew Garfield did a really good job. I thought just from what we've seen, Tom has overall been better. I left the theater very questioned because Andrew Garfield, if this was his last time playing that character, he brought it all, and he left such an impact, and there was so much emotion. Those tears felt real when he goes to save MJ. Just every single moment from Andrew Garfield in this film left me smiling. It left me crying, and it really felt that he wanted to give his all. He wanted to, if this was going to be his swan song, I'm going to give every ounce of energy, every ounce of acting that I have into this film. I want to give back to the fans who have respected my films and who have loved my films and who've been cheering me on. And so I just can't. I walk out of the theater and I can't. Wow, as much as I'm thinking about so many of these plot points about Tom Holland, I could not stop thinking about Andrew Garfield at all.
Yeah, and that's, I heard that reaction from a lot of people. I definitely really love seeing him, and I really do hope he gets a chance to reprise the role more. I think he put his whole heart and soul into it in case this is his last performance. But I think Sony and Marvel know that they've got surefire hit on their hands, whether they bring back Andrew Garfield, who I think would be more inclined to do it than Toby, who I think would still come back on the occasion. But Andrew Garfield, again, also has a lot of life left in him, also wants to bring this character back from the dead. Let's let him do it, for sure. All right. We've got 2 last categories. And before we do, and I know I was kind of curious, and JG explained to me off air, we decided to put the best film before the best show because the best show was a closer race. So we'll let the last big build up there. When we talk about the best film, we had a lot of films this year. We had Black Widow, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, Venom, Let There Be Carnage, Eternals, and Spider-Man No Way Home. And out of those movies, the only one that did not receive a vote for best film was actually Venom, Let There Be Carnage. So the other films were all considered by one of our audience members, their favorite film of the year. Now, with 89.6, almost 90% of the votes, I want our audience to think about which movie got 90% of the votes. It got 43 of the 48 responses. And I don't think it's a shock to anyone when we look at the Rotten Tomatoes score, the reviews, that this award for best film of 2021 for the Marvelcasties has to go to Spider-Man No Way Home. I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that JG and I are also in agreement with this one, and he's shaking his head yes. So JG, tell everyone why this one deserves the title of best film of the Marvelcasties.
Yeah, well, a year where we got so many unique films, every film being so different. We got new heroes introduced. We got to go back and tell stories from the past for heroes that we already know. We got to go to new places. But at the end of the day, when I look back at 2021 and I look at Marvel, I look at the ending and I look at Spider-Man, that theater experience alone, add in bringing all the Spider-Man back, bringing all the villains back, all the denying it, the build up to the trailers, the fact that they had a special event for the trailer, like this film, it was an event film, is what you look up in the dictionary of cinema, and you see event film. You see obviously The Force Awakens, you see Return of the King, you see this movie too, and everything that encapsulated this. And so it's overall, it's just a fun movie. It's a fantastic movie. It's my favorite Marvel movie, actually. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's only been out for 2.5 weeks, and it's currently, I think, in the top 10 domestic films of all time.
Yes.
So if it runs, like you said, throughout the month of January, I don't know if a lot of other movies coming out in January, it definitely can keep working its way up the ladder. I mean, again, I really would be curious if this wasn't pandemic times, where else it could be. But just going back to a full theater and experiencing that, like you said, it's an event film. It's definitely up there. I'd have to really think about how my ranking goes for my favorite MCU films, Marvel films, but it's definitely up there in the top 3, if not in the top spot. It just was so much fun, joy, sadness, so many emotions. Like you said, you feel drained walking out of it, but not in a bad way, just because you just feel so much. And I'm really shocked that neither of us have seen it a second time, because it was just such a good movie, but nothing's going to beat that first theater experience. I'm almost at this point waiting, February, March, till I can own it on digital and just rewatch it from the comfort of my house and just look at my favorite scenes. Like you mentioned earlier, the favorite scene we both had of all 3 of the Spider-Man doing their superhero pose. Like the fact that has not come out in high def yet I just want to frame it and have a poster of that somewhere in my room right now. Man, yep, that deserves the title. I think even when we come back and do this next January, we're going to have a hard time finding a film this year that's going to come anywhere close to that. I think it's going to be a closer race this year. It'll depend on how things go with Black Panther and with Doctor Strange and Thor. I think it's going to be a closer race, especially with those three. But we will see, of course, where we're at next year.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gonna be a lot closer because I think a lot of these films are gonna have a lot more of their niche audiences, and so I think you're gonna see a lot more collective fans for each of the films. There is a possibility, depending on what happens with Doctor Strange, that one could end up, landsliding again. It's really like if you start throwing in X-Men and God knows what else in that film, then it's gonna be really hard to beat, I think.
Well, the only problem is that's going to be one of our first movies of the year in May. So we still have how many months after that? And if Black Panther does come out in November, and if they properly honor Chadwick, I could see that one also being a big hit because the first one was so massive. But also, I just worry. Anytime we do these kind of polls, there, like you said, there's that recency factor. We're seeing a lot, and we'll talk in a second about the impact Spider-Man had this year. But definitely, that recency factor could play into it. I still think if Spider-Man would have come out in May, it still would have been the one that we'd be talking about, though.
Oh, without question.
Yeah.
And so we are going to move to our final category. Normally if you watch award shows like Oscars and such, they keep best film for last, but best film was a landslide, and everyone knew that. We know who was best film. Best show is way more interesting, and so we are honoring best show last because I think also it is so appropriate, being the fact that this was the first year for Disney Plus to have Marvel shows, and for us to get these shows that while a lot of the other stories are very good, and a lot of stories have been on ABC and on Netflix and some on Hulu, while they are very good, and they sometimes don't play into the MCU. So having these official canon part of stories and getting to explore backstories, like we said, it's been a great year. And it was close. It went back and forth between a few. We had a narrow race down to the end, but with 33.3%, that's how close it was. Second place was 29.2%. The winner of Best Show is WandaVision. Steven, this is what kicked off the year. We've talked about Agatha, we talked about the song, we talked about the impact, the launching of Disney Plus, and we even talked about recently best film, like the recency bias. That did not go against WandaVision. We saw that film back in January, a year ago. We were watching that. Thoughts?
Yeah. I was just about to say I've got to eat my own words here because, like you said, recency factor is not playing this. This is a show that people have thought about, and it's given people a year that maybe didn't watch in January that have gone back and watched it for the first time throughout the year. Because with streaming, you can watch it anytime, anywhere, but you don't want to be spoiled on it. That's the big thing. That's why we get up early and watch these things. I definitely think the performances, and again, this was a show that had two Avengers in it. You had Vision and Wanda leading your show. So again, perfect show to start with. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think in a non-pandemic world, the original plan was Falcon and Winter Soldier were supposed to come out first. Correct. So again, it's interesting how schedules have always been flip-flopped. I think this was a stronger show to start with. It was a better show, in my opinion, than Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I think you set the tone with this. And even if Falcon and Winter Soldier is good, but not as great as WandaVision, it's okay because they don't all have to be 100%. It was not my favorite. It was definitely one of my favorites. Was WandaVision your favorite?
It was not my favorite. It was a really great way to start the year. I think I've actually rewatched WandaVision probably the most out of all of them, but it's not my favorite.
And does your favorite start with an L, perhaps?
It does.
We're ending the show together.
Yeah.
What do you got? Loki.
It took us a while, but we're here.
Go ahead. Why is Loki the favorite?
I've said it tonight. I've said it many, many times. It's just, I love, it gives me so much Doctor Who vibes, a show that is close to my heart, that I've actually gotten close to people because of that show. It reminded me of the time travel craziness, the music, the visuals, the romance, the love story that is so ridiculous, yet it's so like that. Even in that self, like Doctor Who also has some ridiculous like love stories and stories of forbidden love, and like we have this now, and it's just, there is just something so special, and I think it's the most unique. It's the one that first I would even say more than WandaVision. And while WandaVision took the risk by doing sitcoms, everyone is, you've been introduced to sitcoms before. That's some familiarity. Loki just went bananas at first, before What If came out, and we just went crazy in this non-time in time plays. We even had Miss Minutes running around. Like it was such a good show, and more than anything, we are getting a continuation. I think if it wasn't for COVID, it would have been all one season, but I think COVID forced it to be two seasons. That's my theory. But overall, I cannot wait to see where that story goes. I don't even want to say one. I need Sylvie and Loki back together. I will riot.
But they weren't your favorite ship or duo like mine.
I can still feel passionate.
You can. Yeah, I agree with so much of what you're saying, and I'm hopeful that maybe, I think Marvel saw how successful it was. I don't know if it was because of the COVID or what, but I think there's a reason why Loki is the only show from this year that's been announced to have a sequel season. A lot of them were, more limited run, limited series, miniseries, whatever have you. But Loki, definitely, there's so much room for potential. Like, you could run Loki every year with just 5 or 6 new adventures through time and space. Like you said, this is a more no, because Doctor Who's family friendly too. I don't know how I want to say it, but it definitely is maybe even more accessible, because I think some people are afraid to jump into Who with so much history with it. So Loki was more accessible. Every episode I was just excited. Where are we going to go this time? It's a mystery. You've got so many side characters. You introduce, the next big villain. And, even though WandaVision teased and walked around the edge of the multiverse, this went full steam by really showing us the end of time, like Doctor Who, going into the multiverse, really the explosions of all the different the sacred timeline into all these other timelines. And I think without Loki, I don't think you're able to do some of the things you want to do with Spider-Man No Way Home. Or, there's a reason you had to do Loki before Spider-Man, to show the variants, to show that there are some variants that look like Tom Hiddleston, but most of them do not look like Tom Hiddleston. And I think that was a smart decision. They didn't even have to mention variants in Spider-Man. But again, those fans of us that have seen it, that's what we called them. We called them variants. Yeah. And I think leading into Doctor Strange, again, a film would be hard to do that without having the background you have with Loki. So that's why it got my top result this year as well.
Yeah, it was such a good show, and the visuals and the score, everything, it was just overall fantastic. And like you said, without it is the foundation for this multiverse saga, and for what is to come with that. And I did want to wrap up and just say that Spider-Man overwhelmingly took home 6 Marvelcasties. Yelena did take home 2, but for the most part, this was Spider-Man show. We knew this movie is special. This is a movie 20 years in the making. Deserves all the honor it got. But again, lots of love for all the other heroes, villains, moments, scenes. Steven, any other final just thoughts about 2021 as we wrap up? Put a little bookmark there for now as we get ready to hop into 2022 next week.
Yeah, I think I'm so glad you came up with this idea. I think this award show, I was so excited to record this today, like all day at work. I was just looking forward to getting here to talk to you, and sharing yours. And I like that, again, like typical for our conversations, we had some big moments that we agreed on, but we also had so many that we disagreed on. And I love to be able to talk to someone who can have a different opinion, but still appreciate others. So I've really enjoyed the past 20 weeks with you, JG, and I'm really excited for, the next 52 weeks this year. So we're going to have so much to talk about. We're going to have a great show. And thank you again for all the work you put into this, because I hope our audience enjoys kind of hearing they got a voice, and I want them to get more of a voice. So please write in, and then JG will explain that in a second. But JG, thanks. It's been a great 20 weeks, and here's to many more.
Definitely. I had a cheesy thing that I forgot that I was going to say. My best moment was actually starting this podcast, but it's kind of cheating because it's not in the Marvel universe, but maybe it is somewhere.
The multiverse.
Yes. Yes. Like, it's even crazy. Like, just think, like, a year from now when we're doing the second anniversary of this show, like, we'll be at episode like 72 or 73. Like, that's weird. that's like Loki timeline weird.
100. I mean, how do we even top that when we get there?
Crazy.
80 weeks.
crazy. Well, guys, again, thank you guys so much for your support. I will just preface that the YouTube video, it normally is up on Thursday. It might be up a little bit later on Friday because there's just more work going into this episode. So just keep a lookout for that. Last week's episode is still going up. YouTube has an issue with files, apparently. It's great. Technology, wonderful. Well, thank you guys so much. This does wrap up episode 20 of Marvelcast. We hope you enjoyed diving into the world of Marvel with us. We want fans to interact with this podcast. Like Steven said, we can't wait to hear your feedback and questions. Did you disagree? Because I bet you some of these things you guys might have disagreed. If you did, or even if you did agree, like, talk to us, email us. We want to hear your feedback. Are you excited? Are you upset about Morbius? Whatever your comments, questions, statements, we want to read. You email us, we will put it on the show and we will talk about it. It will be a segment. Or eventually it's going to get to a point where our show is going to go from that good hour and a half to closer to 2 hours, because we know you guys are going to reach out to us and we're going to have so much to talk about. And we cannot wait for that. Please subscribe to 1138 Productions feed if you haven't, and leave a review wherever you listen. Again, Spotify just started. It helps us out a lot. Check us out on YouTube for a video version of the podcast. For myself and Steve, have a marvelous week, and remember,
I could do this all day.